I know this is our first time walking to the courtroom together, but I think our relationship's really seeing some serious growth. Now, I don't want to take this too fast, but I think it's about time we start discussing how we can bring this to the next level. Yeah, I'm talking romance, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, where are you going? Oh, you just heading to the courtroom ahead of me? Is that it? Please go there. I can't do this without an audience. I know love like the palm of my hand, folks. That's why I'm here, all alone in this dark room. Anyway, nothing gets the old pacemaker poppin' quite like romance. Games have been exploring themes of affection since before they were putting bits on the screen. Even Nintendo got into the swing of things with a love tester way back in 1969, or the Doodad as it's called in WarioWare Twisted. Turn the clock a few decades ahead, and the market's loaded with RPGs and visual novels featuring plenty of partners to peruse and ships to sail, so whether you have exotic tastes or fancy yourself a furry, it's safe to say there's probably a game out there that'll scratch your itches. For better or worse, just a dash of romance building can be considered enough to breathe new life into a franchise on the brink, but the industry doesn't always handle them with the same class you'd expect from other mediums. Romance is usually relegated to side quests, and the concept of love could be confused with lust in a lot of today's titles. BioWare is something of a punching bag when it comes to how games handle feelings. Whether it be through Dragon Age or Mass Effect, they treat relationships as subplot missions with cutscenes as their rewards. If you keep exhausting dialogue branches at every turn, eventually you'll make it to the finish line. You'll take on a quest befitting of the gameplay, and you'll be treated to unique dialogue sequences that'll culminate in a cinematic. But sometimes relationship goals are more strategic. Recent Fire Emblem games, for example, can allow pairs of fighters to battle side by side, increasing your power and paving the way for some scripted sequences post-level if they're compatible. Keep them together long enough to read all their interactions, and you'll be able to generate offspring with their union as a couple. Strategy even surfaces there, too, as some might be motivated to lock down a kid with the right shade of hair. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Florence manages to capture the essence of relationships pretty well. It explores how small, intimate moments and shared experiences bloom into romance, and how it all crumbles once mundanity seeps in through the cracks. Talk about beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. But if that approach works so well, why don't developers explore love on a deeper level more often? I think it comes down to scope and interactivity. At the end of the day, Florence is a linear, 30-minute experience with limited replay value. For big AAA productions, that sounds pretty rough. Tales of romance need to be shallow and goal-oriented side quests for them, because if you took a game like Florence and spread it out over dozens of hours with branching threads to bolster replayability, the costs of production are gonna skyrocket. Visual novels can take it further than traditional titles, since they're only constrained by text and static images, but big-budget titles need to push as many units as possible, and while there's an untapped market for romance, it can be considered too much of a gamble when executives know combat sells just fine. One way around this that could showcase relationships in an authentic fashion without spreading a studio thin would be making the focal point NPCs. You're not robbing the player of any choices, and themes of romance can be explored in a linear fashion that doesn't feel contrived. I've heard Night in the Woods handle that pretty well, but even that direction could be a tough sell. If I told you instead of forming a meaningful connection with someone, you could just watch one develop between two other people, I doubt you'd experience the same thrills or buy into the experience quite as much. This is sort of where the mantra sex sells seeps its way into the industry. Why invest in compelling narrative when you can just invest in a few models that'll give the horn dogs something to relish? Low cost, low effort, maximum returns. Romance is an avenue developers should continue trying to embrace, but we might not see the day where bumpin' uglies is just a bump in the road rather than the final destination for quite some time. As I mean, from a corporate perspective, who needs nuance when you have nipples? Hey there, pal. Thanks for watching. Oh man, was the deadline for this video ever tight. But you know what they say? Love finds a way. What do you think of romance in games though? Does the concept strike your fancy, or are you more in it for the eye candy when the subject is spread out in front of you? Let me know in the comments below.